Hello, everybody, and welcome to BriskHeat's Tech Talk. My name is Thomas Jablonski, and I'm with the tech support team here at BriskHeat, located in Columbus, Ohio. I'll be your presenter today for this presentation. Today on Tech Talk, we're starting the self-regulating cable series. Today's session specifically will be on a pre-installation checklist and the cable layout procedure. Now, what we're hoping to accomplish with this thing is help ensure that you guys have a successful cable install. And I'm going to give you a couple tips that will help shorten the troubleshooting process in the future should problems arise. Oh yeah, and at the end of this thing, we're going to give you a special offer code for your next purchase for those who stick around. All right, let's go over the agenda real quick. First, we have the pre-installation checklist. Go over a few items that need to be done before you even start rolling out the cable off the reel. From there, we're going to talk about how to run and install your cable, cable placement, etc. Lastly, we're going to talk about post-installation checklist, things to do, things to record, and so on. Now, some of the suggestions in this presentation might seem a little redundant and kind of like common sense. But as you all know, when we get complacent in our duties, things get missed that normally wouldn't if we were on our toes. All right, so with that being said, let's get started on the pre-installation checklist. All right, the pre-installation checklist. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to check our application. Again, we're going to go through the entire application. Yeah, I know you've done this 100 times, but now's the time to catch something that was overlooked, that was missed. Start from the beginning, go to the end, go through it all. I know you don't want to hear it, but this is just advice, guys. Have somebody else look at it. Get a second pair of eyes on it. Just make sure nothing was missed. Very important. And from there, we're going to check the parts on site, on location. You want to confirm that you ordered all the parts that were needed for the application. You want to check your quantities. You want to check to make sure that you received everything that you ordered. You want to check part numbers. Check everything. Now's the time to check it. You don't want to find out you're missing something down the road in the middle of the install. Confirm you have the correct cable that you need, that you ordered. You don't want to be the guy, and I've gotten a call like this before, and yeah, you don't want to be this guy. Installed the entire run, did not check the part number beforehand, installed the entire run, showed pictures. It looked awesome, a great install. Went to power it up. The cable would not come up to temperature. After further investigation, they ordered the wrong cable. So don't be that guy. And that's what this checklist is for, to make sure that anything that can be caught before the install is caught. And next we are going to do an IR test, installation resistance test. And we're going to record that value and we're going to compare them to the criteria found in the installation manual. And you want to use, make sure you use the correct criteria for your specific cable. For this test, you're going to use a 2500 volt DC tester, and you'll do this test for roughly a minute's time. And you'll want to do this IR test before you start dragging this cable off the reel. This test is going to confirm that the cable is indeed good and ready for operation. Okay, so what's next? The meter mark. There's a meter mark on the cable. You want to record that value. All right. And you're going to help. You're going to hear me say record the value numerous times, and you'll probably get tired of hearing it, but I can't stress how important it is, how much it'll help you in the future. These IR tests, these meter marks, um, it does wonders in the troubleshooting aspect down the road. Trust me on that. So record the meter mark. I'm going to have you record the meter mark at the end of the run as well. Uh, you guessed it, you'll know exactly how much cable is on the circuit run actually, as opposed to what you guys planned for. There's a lot of flanges that end up being needing a little extra cable or valves or anything like that, anything heat sink related that needs extra cable, and you don't know about it till you're out there installing. So record that meter mark so you know exactly how much you have on the run. Lastly, we're going to check our pipe surfaces. We're looking for anything that could damage the cable in the future. Rough edges, burrs, um, anything that could actually cut the cable, damage the cable. Uh, you want to make sure this surface is clean and dry as well, no debris. Um, guys, I can't stress this enough. If there's something you see while you're checking your pipe surface, something you see that you even question yourself about, my advice to you is address it now. Address it now instead of waiting until you power this thing up, power this run up, and something's happening. Something's not going right. If you don't address that, it's that one little spot's going to pop in your head. Is this what's causing it? Instead of what should be popping in your head is the actual troubleshooting, instead of you second guessing yourself. If there's something you can do ahead of time to make sure or help ensure, excuse me, that this is a successful install, do yourself a favor and do it. Okay, so we've gone through the pre-installation checklist. Let's move on down the road to running and installing your cable. All right, let's discuss running your cable. First thing you want to do is put your reel on a stand. It's going to do nothing but help you manipulate the cable without getting it tangled up or you having to wrestle through it getting caught on something while you are dragging that entire circuit run. So do yourself a favor, put your reel on a stand. After it's on a stand, you can go ahead and start pulling that cable. Pull it the entire run. At the very end, I suggest you guys leave an extra 3 or 4 feet, and that's for a service loop. Should something happen to where you need to add a T or splice something in or a indicator light at the end or anything like that, you'll have that little 3 to 4 feet of extra cable to suffice. Oh, and while this cable's on the ground, you want to ensure the cable's not walked on or driven over or driven on. That's going to do nothing but damage the cable. And heck, you may not know about it until you get it up and test it after it's already installed. So just keep an eye on it. Make sure nobody does the wrong thing, even on accident. Just protect that cable. While the cable's there on the ground, next you'll want to inspect it. This might take a minute, might take a little while, but take that walk. Grab the cable, get it in your hands. Make sure there's no nicks, there's no cuts, blemishes. This is brand new cable, guys. Make sure it looks like it. Now's the time to find something that could cause problems for you in the future. Like I said before, what we're trying to do is prepare you for a successful install. So take that walk. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's going to do nothing but help. Okay. Now we're going to start securing the cable to the pipe. Okay. You want to use fiberglass adhesive tape. That's what we use. That's what we suggest. Excuse me. Most of the industry does as well. It lasts forever. Good tape, good strong tape. You want to wrap it every 12 inches. Make sure the cable is secure on the pipe. And before you start securing the cable to the pipe, make sure you leave that extra 3 to 4 feet, that service loop. After that, just go ahead and start wrapping every 12 inches. All right, everybody, let's discuss cable location on the pipe. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this session is for straight pipe tracing only. I will most likely be doing a spiral wrap section down the road, but definitely not this one. So for straight pipe tracing, cable is installed in the lower quadrant of the pipe. More specifically, the 4 and or 8 o'clock positions. And there's a illustration below, and it points it out exactly where. There's a couple of reasons we do this, guys. One is for safety of the cable. Okay, a couple scenarios I'll give you quick. Maintenance crawls all over everything to, well, fix everything. I've been on the mezzanine floors of at many locations and looked down and seen pipes with footprints on them, boot marks all over the pipe, and I just chuckle. That's maintenance. Maintenance has been here regardless. If your cable is on the top of that pipe, they could unintentionally damage that cable, and your run may not be flowing product at that point. Another scenario is something could fall from upper deck, a wrench, something as small as a wrench, and land on the top of this pipe. If it doesn't break the pipe, if your cable's up there, it could damage cable. Same scenario, it could stop the actual run, the process, the flow of your product. Lastly, we put it at the bottom because it promotes better heat transfer to the contents of your pipe. As you guys know, heat rises, so safety of the cable and better heat transfer. All right, so when we come to flanges and valves in our run, while we're wrapping this cable, installing this cable, excuse me, you're going to want to leave a little extra cable to allow for the extra heat needed due to wall thickness, internal parts, etc. On these valves or flanges or whatever it is you're wrapping. The illustration on the bottom left just shows the install, leaving a little bit of extra cable dangling there. The next illustration, same slide, is showing one way to wrap a valve. It's pretty, it's nice, it's secure, it's not dangling. You want this cable to be heat sinked as much as possible. So get yourself a good amount of tape on there to ensure that the wrap is good. It's a good solid, snug wrap. As you know, there are numerous shapes and sizes of flanges, and valves. And as long as you have a good, tight, nice, snug, secure fit of this cable around it, there's really no wrong way to wrap these things, as long as you have enough heat to ensure it does not stop the flow of the product going through the pipe. Shoe supports or any other types of supports, guys. There's going to be a little bit of heat loss there, and you want to compensate for it. So some extra cable there in those areas are going to help compensate for that heat loss. It's going to help ensure that your process flow is still good, and so on. Now, this is for any sections. and you're going to hear a little bit about it on the next slide. But anything you feel could use a little extra heat, now's the time to address it. It's going to be pretty hard to address it after the cable's cut, after this line's installed, after you get it all powered up, and you find that one little section just needed a little extra cable to complete this run. So my advice, guys, is if you see anything that could use a little extra, give it to it. Give it to it now instead of chasing your tail in the future. Now, when you come across elbows, you want to make sure that the cable is wrapped on the outside radius of that elbow, okay? Outside radius, always. Now, I'm going to tell you, just like with the last two slides, that if you feel you need a little extra heat in those sections, you have a concern for any reason, feel free to give it a little bit of extra cable, just to say, at the very least, to set your mind at ease. But you want to definitely make sure the outside radii are covered on your elbows. All right, so we've gone through our pre-installation checklist. We've actually ran the cable, secured it to the pipe. So what's next? We have you guessed it, post-installation checklist. Some of these things are to happen before cutting the cable from the spool. First thing on this post-installation checklist is before you cut the cable, we take a walk. You want to make sure that you are completely happy with what you've done. Make sure that the cable has stayed where you needed it to stay. Make sure the tape has not came loose. Make sure you're completely happy with the install and you have no question in your mind that did I put enough cable there? Did I secure it enough with this tape? You want to be confident in this install, and that's why you're taking this walk, to make sure you have that confidence. Have somebody go with you. I've said before, get a second pair of eyes on stuff. It's not going to hurt nothing. It's going to help at the very least. So take that walk before you cut the cable. Another thing before you cut the cable, you want to leave that service loop. 3 to 4 feet is what we suggest, but it's not, it's just a recommendation. You could leave less, you could leave more. I guess the goal is to have just a little extra there in case you need it, guys. Now we're going to cut the cable, excuse me. Once you're happy with the walk, you're happy with the install, the tape's sticking, everything looks great, the birds are chirping, there's nothing wrong with this install whatsoever, go ahead and cut your cable. Next you want to write down, record, your meter mark. What that's going to do is, I think I explained it in the beginning, that's going to tell you how much cable you got on the circuit run, as opposed to what you planned for. A lot of times what we plan for is less than what's on the circuit run due to wrapping a valve a different way because you think you needed it. A flange, the same thing. A shoe support that wasn't counted on before, and etc. That meter mark's going to tell you exactly how much cable you have on that circuit run, and you're going to record it. Don't forget to record it, guys. That's going to help you with troubleshooting in the future. Lastly, we're going to do an insulation test. Actually, we're going to do 2 of them. We're going to do an insulation test to check the inner jacket on this cable. This will be done by checking the bus wire and the braid. Record that value. Then we're going to do another IR test that measures the outer jacket. And we are going to test that with the braid and the pipe. Both of those will be done for a minute's time each. And don't forget to record those values, guys. Just a side note, and I think I've said it before, but recording these IR test values, they're going to save you a ton of time in the future should you need to troubleshoot your circuit. Okay, now we're going to do a quick recap. Okay, so we're going to start with the pre-installation checklist. First thing we're going to do is recheck our application notes, make sure nothing was missed, forgotten, or anything like that. Next, we want to confirm parts are on site, are the ones we need, are the ones we ordered. Confirm that quantity as well, excuse me. Especially confirm your cable part number, matches the PO, matches what you ordered. The cable part number physically on the cable matches what you're supposed to be getting, and check the number on the reel just to confirm everything is to what it's supposed to be. Next, you'll go to that IR test. You want to measure the results against the instruction manual and record the values. From there, we're going to record the value of the meter mark you're starting with. That way we know what is physically, how many meters are on the circuit run. And lastly, we're going to check pipe surfaces, make sure it's free of debris, any burrs, anything that could damage your cable. Okay, now let's discuss running and installing your cable. Remember at the beginning of your run to leave that 3 to 4 feet of extra cable for a service loop. That'll do nothing but help you in the future, you or somebody else actually. Next, you'll attach the cable. When you attach it, you want to attach it on the bottom quadrant of the pipe. That's the 4 and or 8 o'clock position to ensure that something doesn't fall on it and damage it, or somebody doesn't walk on it and damage it, etc. You want to secure that cable to the pipe every foot, every 12 inches. Leave some extra cable for the flanges, the valves, and the shoe supports. Anything you think is going to need a little extra heat, a little extra love, feel free to give it to it. You don't want one little spot stopping the flow of the entire process. For elbows, wrap that cable on the outside radius, and if there's shoe supports on those as well, do the same as far as leaving some extra cable. All right, guys, last on the recap list is post-installation. Before you cut that cable, take a walk. Walk through the entire run, the entire installation. Check your valves, your flanges, your elbows, shoe supports. Make sure all your tape is secure. Step back and look at it. Just make sure it is the way you intended on it being when you installed this. Make sure you're happy with it and content. Another thing, before you cut the cable, you want to leave a service loop. Like I said before, I suggest 3 to 4 feet, but you can add as much as you want. And it's just a little extra there to make sure if something happens, you're prepared for it. After all that, if you're happy with the install, you got your service loop, go ahead and cut your cable. Next, you'll record that meter mark value. That way you know exactly how much cable is on the circuit run. From there, lastly, we're going to go down to the IR tests, and we're going to confirm that the inner and outer jackets did not get damaged during this install or anything else. And you want to record that value. That value right there, those values, excuse me, will be a great baseline for future troubleshooting processes if you guys need it.